welcome here to the home of the undisputed champion and Ferrari's biggest fan, as we are now going to go to the round 20 of the 2025 FI Formula 1 World Championship, which will be run at the Autodromo Hermanos and Rodriguez, named after Mexico's most famous racing brothers, the Rodriguez brothers that race in the 50s. Welcome here to the home of the Mexico Grand Prix. And the Mexican Grand Prix obviously now being around 20 of the championship, so we start with the 2. It means that the title is really heating up, especially the Drivers' Championship. So in this exclusive race reaction, we will take a look at the track, what makes it unique, and also because it's usually run on the weekend coinciding with the Halloween, what also makes perhaps the crowd and the whole atmosphere, quite joyful, quite unique. I have to say, I'm not a big fan of that starting grid music that they have for the Mexico, where they usually change it to that either scary kind of the Halloween type music, but why not once a year, right? Because as you can see, for example, in my shorts videos, or when we start the new season, I really like that Formula 1, the great starting routine. It's a fantastic music, and it really, kind of raises the adrenaline once the start of the Grand Prix is just a few minutes away. And I have to say, it will be absolutely critical for us as Scuderia Ferrari if we want to win here for the 4th time in the history. Believe it or not, obviously we haven't had so many Mexican Grand Prix. It will be absolutely crucial that we will do well in qualifying. So in this race introduction, we will tell you exactly what we are looking for. Why I think we will depart here from the Central, or technically North America, in the 2nd place in the Constructors' Championship. Currently we are 3rd, and why I'm really looking forward, if you see that lovely calendar there to my right, I'm really looking forward to the final 6th of the season, which will decide then who will be the Drivers' Championship, because sadly the McLaren's, the unfashionable orange cars, have run away with the Constructors' title. So we will then also talk about, because as you know, I'm also running concurrently the 2024 season, and of course I managed to win it, oh yay! And I'm so happy about it. So we will be displaying a lot of the Formula 1 Drivers Trophy, that you can see in lots of the videos. Once again, the schedule, because you can see this Team Pro Polo, this really great, fashionable attire, and you do know that this is the only one that doesn't coincide with any of the Sprint Grand Prix, so this is your standard Grand Prix weekend, so you will get this race introduction 24 hours before the start of the practice 1, and at the same time when the practice 1 will be run, then of course you can witness our hot lap, and then the F125 hot lap will be of course run during the free practice 2. Free practice 3, we will show you the ultimate best lap that we've done here at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, the so-called red hot lap, and then we will go qualifying. Hopefully we can make the qualifying from a single one, a double one, in terms of our success over here. So hopefully we can make it a twin of a qualifying successes here in Mexico. We will see how that goes. We will run it concurrently at the very same time as the real Formula 1 drivers will be trying to qualify, and especially us, we will try to qualify hopefully on the front row or on the first 2 rows, which would mean that we will have the best chance to finally win the first race of the 2025 season. And then when the Grand Prix starts, you can also see how I will challenge for my lucky 3rd Mexican Grand Prix victory as the fresh Formula 1 World Champion, the 4th-time Scuderia Ferrari Formula 1 World Champion. You cannot really win for any better team, and I have to say over here that I think you could see from Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton that they are really hungry for success. It was great how racy they were, especially Leclerc, but also Hamilton. The way how he showed kind of Leclerc who is the boss in the sprint was very, very encouraging. Even for example, during the race when he caught up. So this is great. Obviously, I'm happy that there wasn't any contact. It was very, very close between the both drivers. But here in Mexico, it will be important that we don't, only fight for the remaining podium places, but that we try to challenge for the victory. In terms of the news, there are no real news to tell you about, no real major announcements, to tell you about. But again, because this circuit is run at such a high altitude, it will be interesting to see where everybody stands, right? The title race, I didn't expect it. I think nobody did, including the main protagonist of the races, the first half of the races after the summer break. The villain from the Red Bull, the Max Verstappen, who also said that you would be crazy to think that it would be between anybody but the two papaya, the McLaren drivers, and it is, because the circuit of the Americas actually is kind of a benchmark, whether we like it or not, for most of the remaining races, especially for 3 out of the 4 races in the final 6 of the season, right? Here in Mexico, I would say it is also quite telling what the pecking order was in Mexico, was in the United States, what it could be in Mexico, but because it's a run at a high altitude, it will kind of throw the spanner in the works. There will be a bit of an unknown variable, and of course Las Vegas being a very special track, so a lot to play for. So over here, as we will be racing it with the SF1000T N18 Formula 1 Racing Simulator, I'm looking forward to it. I have to say the Mexican Grand Prix is really well designed. Of course, the circuit was also reprofiled, as you do know, once it made its way back into the calendar in 2015. The 2015, after almost 20 years, and especially the podium section is a really great section, where you can celebrate the victory. So let's take a look at it, how the track looks like, and especially, how successful we were in it. And then we will take a look at the Drivers' Championship, the Constructors' Championship, and obviously how, as a reigning world champion over here, I will do. And I'm so happy that I won the title, even though not with a victory, in Austin, because, kind of, I deserve to win it in 2017 in Austin when the mosquito bit me, but of course, and then I lost control in a penultimate, corner. I think that's well documented, and especially the 2023, that botched season where I had, so many mechanical failures, including here in Mexico. We are really in for a payback this year, because, yeah, sometimes you kind of feel that, something was unfairly taken away from you, or due to the circumstances, out of your control, and definitely here we will be able to achieve that. So let me turn around the Scuderia Red Regina iMac over here for you guys, so that you can see exactly where we will be racing. Okay, so let's take a look at it. I hope you can see it nice and clear. And this is the circuit named after the Rodriguez brothers, obviously Sergio Perez, who is not racing anymore, but who will be returning for the Cadillac along with Valtteri Bottas, like kind of in that battle of the best number 2s of the last decade. A little bit strange that Cadillac has picked these 2 drivers. He would of course like to challenge their status, but to be honest, yeah, it is great to have it named after the legends. And this is how the circuit is. So it does feature a long straight, but it actually doesn't mean, as we will show you in a setup, that you will be running a low downforce. Again, because you are at the altitudes of over 2,000 meters, that means that there are not as many particles of the air, or especially the oxygen, and the composition is rather tiny, so there is a thin air as a result, which of course means that the engines have to work harder, right? Obviously, oxygen is a great component for the combustion, even though from next year we will be using mostly batteries, so maybe the elevation won't play so much of a role once we get to the new generation cars. But here with basically the ICE, the internal combustion engine, still being an integral component of the Formula 1 cars, it will definitely play a role. So we will see how it will affect us. Obviously, Ferrari never smokes, as Enzo Ferrari famously said, which means that this could well be our track, just like last year, right? Of course. So here you will be heading down the straight, and this, it will be very important, that you get to the turn 1 here in the first position, I believe, because if you can do so, the Formula 1 2025 season is really increasingly looking like the qualifying formula, very reminiscent of 2010, before the DRS was introduced. So it's funny that on the final year, when we have the DRS, when we will lose it, that we still having the overtaking problems. You can see the DRS is quite low over here. So so that should help. And again, you have the 3 DRS zone, so perhaps that will aid the qualifying. A lot of 90-degree corners, so 1, 2, and 3 over here. It is very important, to ride the curbs a little bit. They can unsettle the car, and the traction here is at a premium. Then again, long straight, but then it starts a very technical part. Again, a lot of 90-degree corners, like you will see here, and here, scene of some, tough boy overtakes by Ricciardo and Vettel, for example, when they were racing for Red Bull and Ferrari respectively. And then, obviously you go through the turn 6 over here. So actually, the turns 5 and 6, it is kind of like a one turn. You just, keep turning. It's funny, when I first tried, I turn straight and turn it. It's slower. You just, gotta keep the wheel turning, even though it doesn't look like. And then you get to this section, turn 7. You do know, that's where, for example, the Red Bull villain, push Norris off the track, and that's why he will lose his penalty points over here. So we hope that he gets, another set of the penalty points, maybe pushing somebody off into turn 7, which is a very hard overtaking spot, but it's very important to hit it right. You have to run very, very wide to make sure that you can then go nicely, always sweeping left, right, and then left over here. And hopefully you can go full power as you pass this detection point over here, because if you can go full power through this kind of a long 6-7 gear chicane, that is the fastest way to go, right? Sometimes, especially in the earlier years, it did require few like a bit of a lift here and there, but if you can keep it over here, you will get to the end of the sector 2 in the leading position. Then a very, very difficult unsighted turn over here. So if you go here to the Ferrari.com website, we obviously told you that this used to be kind of like the long hairpin that would then lead onto the main straight, but now is that a very popular podium section where the winning car will kind of race from the ground and onto the top of the podium. Quite difficult, to hit it. You have to ride the curbs, try to keep it straight through the turns, 14, 15, and then turn 16, the early acceleration is the key, but be careful. Remember what happened to Leclerc, who's gotten a few of the pole positions here in Mexico, who actually ran wide and almost hit the barrier, but thankfully there is a good run of zone. So this is how you tackle the circuit. Definitely do check out the hard laps in 24 hours time to see exactly how to race it. Here you can see lap record of 1:17.774. We can go significantly quicker in a simulator, so I think that Bottas's record from 2021 will definitely fall. It is a 71 lap race, again though it goes pretty quickly. So here is the scenery of the Mexico. Actually, overall we will also describe the surroundings, which actually is a pretty nice area. Especially when you see it on the map. Of course, I've never been to Mexico, but I have to say it's like the sports area in a park with lots of the other stadiums. So it's a lot of joy. Now here are the Ferrari stats since 1963. So obviously we haven't had so many races in Mexico, but we managed to win 3 times, including last year when we finally converted some really good starting positions, because you can see we were on 5 pole positions. But for example, our legendary hero Michael Schumacher has never raced here. That's why we haven't maybe won so many races, right? That could be one of the reasons. I could actually equal Ferrari's tally over here with, as I'm aiming for my very own third victory. So it will be very important to convert that particular over here pole position into hopefully a race victory. 6 fastest laps that we've set. So you can see during the race, just like we've proven, for example, in Austin, we can be very strong. 14 podiums, I believe that, that will be now a bare minimum. Obviously, it's great to see Leclerc on a podium, but especially with Lewis Hamilton, it will be very important to get him on the podium, because in every season he's competed in Formula 1, he's always scored at least 5 podiums, and we have 5 more races to go. So he's gonna be on a podium every single race, right? That's right, didn't know about these stats, and of course he want to get rid of that unwanted record of most races with Scuderia Ferrari without the podium. You do 20 races, you don't even stand on the podium. That's how great the team actually is, right? And no matter who the driver, you can at least get on a podium and usually get a victory as well. Okay, so here you've gotten the introduction of the Circuit Hermanos Rodriguez, and here let's take a look at the driver's standing. So the 2025 season, unlike for example the 2024 season, is now all about the drivers' championship, as it's been since the beginning, because you don't have one driver leading, but a couple of teams fighting for the constructors title. Here you have one team clearly ahead, and a few drivers actually fighting for the driver's title, including Oscar Piastri from Australia, leading with 346 points. This is I would say key race for Piastri, right? That final third of the season started horridly for him. He hasn't even stood on the podium, and it will be important that he at least maintains his lead. Otherwise, there will be a serious doubts. He's not that experienced. It's only his third season in Formula 1. Can he hold on to the lead? That's more likely than, can he run away with it? Lando Norris looking stronger of late by 332 points, but, lurching on his back, only 26 points behind from Norris and 40 from Piastri is the reigning world champion Max Verstappen of Red Bull Racing, who is aiming for that fifth consecutive Formula 1 World Drivers title, which only Michael Schumacher, our hero, has got it, so he cannot win. So, we are surprisingly, hoping that McLaren's, can make it, but we don't have confidence in it. But I think if Red Bull will struggle here at a high altitude, this could all well, spell the end of the title challenge for Verstappen. Why? It's very simple. When I've been fighting, for example, for 2016 and 2023, the 2016-2023 titles, I've actually been behind, even up to 70 points. I managed to overcome it in 2016-2016, but I only returned to the lead at Abu Dhabi after the checkered flag has fallen for the final race of the season. So it was very difficult to get back into the lead. And obviously in 2023, I was on a great run, but once I started to have the mechanical failures, one failure here for Verstappen or some crazy crash maybe with Russell, who is fourth in the standings, and a Piastri win, and all of a sudden he's 65 points behind with 4 races to go, and he can perhaps forget the title. So at the moment there is a momentum around the Red Bull, but it can quickly disappear. So over here, fourth, as we said, George Russell, Mercedes, 252 points. I think he will stay there for us. Fifth, Charles Leclerc, Ferrari. The main goal is to get as many wins as possible. He hasn't won here, but he's been on pole here a couple of times. He is the only Ferrari driver who has gotten multiple pole positions here at the circuit, Herman Rodriguez. So we hope he can win and get to 200 points. Lewis Hamilton, Ferrari, for 142 points. He needs to get a podium, right? We don't want him, for example, to finish podium-less, or definitely also, have his lowest podium tally of the season in his driver's career. Seventh is then Andrea Kimi Antonelli, Mercedes, 89 points. If he stays clear of the trouble, he could challenge 100 points soon. 8, Alexander Albon Williams, 73 points, a little bit of form as of late. And then 9, Nico Hülkenberg, Kick Sauber, 41 points. 10, Isaac Hachar Racing Bulls, 39 points. 11, Carlos Sainz Williams, 38 points. Then we have 12, Fernando Alonso, Aston Martin, 37 points. He would be my favorite to actually go all the way to the 9th place because he's unlike the other drivers, less prone to some crazy crashes or mistakes. 13, Lance Stroll, Aston Martin, 32 points. 14, Liam Lawson, Racing Bulls, 30 points. 15, Esteban Ocon has 28 points. Now, serious danger for him is that Bergman could overtake him despite him being so far behind. 16, Yuki Tsunoda, Red Bull Racing, 28 points, and we will see what Tsunoda can do here. Can he again score the points? But again, he won't score, I believe, more than 4 or 6 points because he's simply always half a second slower than Verstappen. So he can challenge the top 3 teams. 17, Pierre Gasly, Alpine, 20 points. And then we have 18, Oliver Berman has 20 points. He's lately off form. Wouldn't be surprised if he gets to 17 points and challenge his teammate. And then 19, Gabriel Bortoleto, Kick Sauber, 18 points. The big question is Franco Colapinto from Alpine will be racing. He's 20 at 0 points. Can he get a points here in Mexico, where he will have lots of Argentinian fans, and obviously Latin, Spanish-speaking country, and also in Brazil? He definitely should. Otherwise, should he continue in Formula 1? And 21st, Jack Doohan, Alpine, 0 points. So there's quite a lot of things to look out for. The Constructors table, the 2025-2025 Constructors Championship is already decided. McLaren sadly winning it now with 678 points, but Mercedes second, 341 points. We are third, 334 points. All we need is to get both of the cars on the podium with probably Leclerc's victory would be more probable. And of course, the goal is to outscore Mercedes by 7 points, which we should be frankly able to do, unless Antonelli produces a strong performance. And I wouldn't be surprised if both of our boys out-qualify Russell. Then it should be a slam dunk. Ford Red Bull Racing, 331 points. Hey, we still gotta be careful so we don't finish fourth. But everything will depend on if the title challenge of Verstappen will really take place or not. And surprisingly, Tsunoda is the key to whether Red Bull will finish second, where they kind of should have if the car is really able to beat McLaren's 5 times this season like Verstappen was, or not. Fifth is then Williams, so 111 points. Sixth, Racing Bull, 72 points. 7, Aston Martin, 69 points. 8, Kick Sauber, 59 points. 9, Haas, 48 points. And 10, Alpine, 20 points. So this is how the constructors table look like. That kind of season-long fight between us, the Benzes, kind of the Red Bulls as well will continue. So this was the 2025-2025 Constructors Table. This was the 2025-2025 Drivers Table. And this is where we will be racing for round 20 of the championship, which of course, I've managed, to win twice. So, once it returned back onto the calendar, I was doing really well, having some tussles with Vettel, usually over here, thanks to that long straight in 2016-2016 and 2017-2017. But obviously in 2023-2023, thanks to being held by Albon in qualifying, I only qualified 14 then, then retired due to the mechanical failure. So, I will be aiming for a third victory to equal the overall Scuderia Ferrari's best tally of 3 wins. Over here, the lucky 3 so far, I've been collecting them, this season. And obviously as a reigning champion, right? Now, for example, in 2017, I did win that Abu Dhabi, Grand Prix, right? So, of course, I won the title with the second place, which kind of didn't happen before. But here, I'm really going to have lots of opportunities now, to prove just how strong I can be when, I've already won the title, I've already won the race, and, I definitely want to pay back for that botched race last season. So I also have 2 fastest laps over here, obviously 2 podiums, right? 2 victories, 20th place, but only 1 pole position, because in 2017 I actually qualified second. So I definitely want to also get that second pole, as I was describing at the beginning of this amazing race introduction. I hope you guys like the series, and I hope it will be a lot of great celebration in the country of the carnivals and the festivals, the Mexico. So everybody, now you know everything about the race. Let's put on our Team Pro Polo, which we only use for the classic Grand Prix weekends, and let's go and race! Forza Ferrari! Let's go, Jan! The current reigning Ferrari Formula 1 World Champion, the current season champion. Let's go for some victories. Let's get our first win of the season. Forza Ferrari!